Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, how you doing? Welcome back into the program. Today on the show, we have the one, the only, Mr. Ralph Bond. He'll be joining us here in just a moment to talk all about, science and tech trends. This is a segment dedicated to offbeat, unusual, and different kind of stories that are, often related to science, obviously, kind of high technology, not just Bluetooth speakers and things like that, but, high technology as well as, the environment, which I really appreciate because that's, of course, my little background. There is in kind of environmental sciences, so I always like hearing about those stories as well. But everyone, there's something for everyone, and you're definitely going to want to stick around to hear all about that. And of course, Ralph Bond's harrowing tale of how he was able to save his finger. That's amazing. We'll get into that in just a moment. But everyone, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything: past shows, future shows, all the shows. We're still working on the show notes. We should have those up and running this weekend. I promise that is my goal, and all the way back to the last time Ralph was on. So we'll get those up here running shortly. There was a glitch with our kind of upload stream. So we got that all worked out. Now it's just sit down and do the work, which that's also the hard part. But everyone, Computer America is still the best place, social media, all that good stuff. And of course, if you want to find Ralph, just Google Ralph Bond Wix and you'll find it right there. And of course, in the show notes, you can find it there as well. Now, with all that being said, of course, he is a science and technology trends for Computer America. And on top of that, tech insider for the Mark Mason show over at KEX Portland, Oregon. Really happy to have him. And of course, you may recognize him, longtime Computer America listeners may recognize him as the voice of Intel's Digital Minute. And of course, longtime correspondent with, when he was working over at, I was about to say AMD, AutoCAD. Autodesk. I'm sorry. There we go. Perfect. And so everyone, welcome back onto the program once again, Mr. Ralph Bond. Ralph, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yes, and I survived the extraction of 2 pins from my boo-boo finger, as my grandson calls it. Mm-hmm. I broke the finger bone in this finger when dog walking, and my dog sees a squirrel and rips the leash out of my hand, dislocates the pinky, and breaks this finger. So it's been 6 weeks of fun and games with this thing, and hooray, today I finally got the pins out.
Perfect. Yeah, no, it's, and I'm sure that, what you were telling me before the show, we won't, for anyone out there squeamish, we won't relay it again, but I'm sure you're happy to have just a cast on it now. That's perfect.
Thank goodness.
So, with that being said, let's of course, real quick, Ralph, tell the nice folks out there what about your monthly segments and what you try to do here on the program with your monthly segment on Computer America.
Yeah, and in fact, you kind of captured it when you said offbeat. So some of the stories are kind of weird science stuff, sort of, kind of. Other things are sort of in the future, technology that might change our world in 5-10 years from now. Other stuff is right here and now innovation. So it's a fun mix of things. I look for stuff that's kind of flies under the radar, things that are significant in the science and technology community, mostly in the area of research, that aren't getting a lot of play in the higher level or mainstream media, if you want to call it that. And so that's the point of the whole segment, is to sort of bring this to the audience, and it's a lot of fun.
Right. Yeah, there's certainly a lot of different ground that you like to cover. Everything from battery technology, which is what we're going to kind of lead off with. But yeah, there's something for everyone, as I said before. And if you're watching the video portion, you can of course see the show notes there. You have links to everything that we'll publish after kind of after the fact, and we'll be showing videos and so on and so forth. Just a little bit more interactive, but for everyone able to join us on IRN, we thank you so much, and we're going to make this radio friendly. So, Ralph, why don't we go ahead and start with story number 1?
Yeah, this is really fun. Comes from Ars Technica, which is a wonderful outlet. Headline: This Swedish carbon fiber battery could revolutionize car design. So again, Ars Technica is the source. And of course, if you're able to see this, you can get the link and see the picture and see all this good stuff. But here we go. As consumer demand for longer range all-electric vehicles grows, increasing the size and weight of batteries is not a viable long-term solution for the auto industry. Kind of an obvious statement, of course. Mm-hmm. But this is what really caught my eye. This is what made me want to do this story. But what if some of the car's basic structural components, for example, a car's chassis, could be batteries themselves? When I read this, I went, what? So a group of researchers at Chalmers University of Technology in Sweden recently achieved a breakthrough by creating a remarkable formula for a material strong enough to make structural components and serve as batteries at the same time. This sounds too good to be true. Okay, so here's some of the super geeky science behind this amazing innovation. The university's prototype structural battery material combines a carbon fiber anode and a cathode made with lithium iron phosphate coated aluminum foil. Say that 5 times fast. The anode and the cathode layers are then sandwiched between a glass fiber separator to create a battery electrolyte matrix material strong enough to be formed into structural components. Okay, reality check. The research team noted that it will be years before structural components in a car can be replaced with these new structural composite batteries. But be that as it may, what a great step in possibly a revolutionary direction that could help usher in a new era of longer range, lighter weight electric vehicles. So we'll see.
Yeah, obviously there's a couple of kind of caveats that one would assume there. I mean, just the other day I was in a fender bender. Someone actually rear-ended me, and they popped out of the car and they were like, "Oh, sorry, I was texting." And I'm like, "Oh, that's neat." Yeah, that's and I was talking to the insurance agent, and they were like, "Yeah, that's about 50% of my job are fender benders from texting."
Oh my gosh.
But anyways, my point there is that what happens, Ralph, because I'm sure that you've seen the videos of phones exploding and kind of those vape canisters, anything lithium ion battery, whenever it gets damaged and the two sides of the battery kind of mix, kind of explosive things happen. I'm curious, we make cars out of steel right now. I wonder what the result would be if you got into a fender bender, if you had a pole. What would happen if a battery were to be damaged even slightly?
Yeah, no, those are all fair questions. And again, in fairness to this research team, they said, hey, we're years out before we figure this all out. So that would have to be part of the equation. And if I may, I'm going to segue for a second, because we're talking about electric vehicles and so forth and so on. I wanted to share with the audience. I won't share the brand name because I don't want to unintentionally endorse on the behalf of Computer America a particular car brand. But my wife and I just purchased 2 weeks ago a plug-in hybrid. And
you finally bit the bullet on the RAV4.
We bit the bullet, buddy. After 17 years of having a cute little Scion XB, vintage 2005, after 17 years, we bit the bullet and stepped up into the technology age here. But I wanted to say something about plug-in hybrids for a moment, because
Right?
I think this is a very viable solution for many of us who want to go electric when we can, but worry about range, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what happens if I'm on a long road trip? Well, where am I going to charge up my car? And yes, I know more charging stations are coming, and Tesla's been really good about doing that, blah, 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 blah. But still, there's time, several hours at least or more, to get your car back on the road, so to speak. A plug-in hybrid is really cool because our plug-in hybrid goes about 42 to 45 miles on a pure EV, pure electric situation for the
Right.
first X number of miles. Then when that expires, when that battery is drained, the main hybrid battery kicks in coordination, of course, with the gasoline engine, and you're in traditional hybrid mode. So for us, for our world, for what my wife and I wanted, it gave us the confidence that we could drive for as long as we want, as long as we can get gasoline occasionally, but at the same time do most of our driving as if we were in a Tesla in full EV mode. So kind of something to think about for if you're shopping for a car right now. I'd really strongly consider a plug-in hybrid.
Yep, and I'm sure that it's not going to be long before that is the only option that you have, because I think that the auto industry, and something that a lot of people don't know, is that oil and gas companies, car companies, they're some of the biggest investors in battery technology. Like, you think those are the people who would be very, and maybe historically they were the people very against battery technology and electric vehicles. Now they all know that they're investing in it. And by the way, actually, funny story, the fact that this is from a Swedish research facility. And, I was kind of thinking about Sweden because, Ralph, they are, as far as countries go, they're very conscious about electric vehicles. I think it's like over 50%. They hit the tipping point a couple of years ago. Over 50% of all cars sold in Sweden are completely electric. Not even hybrid, but completely electric. But something that I think that a lot of Europeans don't realize, and I think Americans don't realize the other way, is that, it's like, oh, all these other European countries are so advanced, they're buying electric vehicles, things like that. This is the difference. And I'll go ahead and just actually drag this over here if you're watching the video portion. This is an example of Sweden, this dark part, and this is, of course, the United States. Kind of overlaid it.
Yes.
For those who can't kind of see it, it's stretched between North Florida and all the way up to the border with Canada. Sweden is not that big. It's the United States is actually 22 times the size of Sweden. And Ralph, what you said about the ability to drive long distances, which is why you need the hybrid and the gas. A lot of other countries aren't as big as the United States, so it's not even that big a deal when your electric vehicle range is 300 miles. Ralph, that gets you anywhere in the country. If you live in Sweden.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, take a country like Belgium or something like that.
Exactly. So, that hybridization is super important here for the U.S., still being able to use gas. But, battery technology, and this one too, being able to make your car out of the battery and still, be able to, use it is something that I'm sure a lot of companies would love to do. Ralph, since you were last on, that whole thing happened with Tesla and the battery going up in flames and, that whole thing. But even with stories like that, I think people are still very, very keen on, buying electric cars, and hopefully, thanks to research like this, durable, safe, non-flammable electric cars as well. So
yes,
this way, and it's weird, Ralph, because I actually read Ars Technica all the time, and this one flew completely past me. So I'm glad that you were able to pick it up.
Great story, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So that was story number one. Story number two. Let's go ahead.
Yes, this is fun. More in the offbeat category, kind of. So robotic lizards may play a role in the future of disaster surveillance. Washington Post is a source for this story, and you can see if you're able to see the picture, it's kind of a fun little prototype here. It looks like a little toy, kind of. But here's the story. Researchers at the University of the Sunshine Coast in Australia. What a great name for a university. University of Sunshine Coast. Doesn't that sound like fun? Have created a vertical wall climbing robotic lizard equipped with a video camera to help rescue teams have eyes into difficult to access areas such as a collapsed building. So that's their motivation. Now, to figure out how lizards climb up walls, the team captured 2 lizard species and filmed them walking and climbing. Geckos were filmed walking across a plastic vertical surface, while Australian water dragons were filmed slithering across a specialized carpet. The researchers used software to track the animals' foot placement and how their bodies moved before constructing a remarkable clawed robot prototype, which is shown in the photo. The robotic lizard is 9 inches long, has legs and feet designed to mimic the way lizards can defy gravity and climb vertical flat surfaces. The feet have push pins for claws, allowing them, to grip to surfaces and release with ease. So there's so many other possible uses for these as well beyond the search and rescue kind of thing. But I just thought this is a good example of a little bit of the offbeat kind of wackadoodle, but maybe could be really cool.
Definitely offbeat, and I gotta say, like this is one of those types of robots that, Ralph, you've been talking about for years and years and years, about the search and rescue robots. I don't know which ones are actually being used out in the field, but they're gonna have their choice of just about snake robots and dog robots. There's so many different search and rescue kind of robots that maybe it's just a favorite of like research facilities, and something that you can mimic nature and turn it into a robot. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking for building inspectors, having something like this for crawl space inspections, where you don't want to necessarily have to go down into. Here in Oregon, a lot of our houses are float over about a 3.5 foot space, a crawl space. Separating the house from directly the ground, right? And so I was thinking for building inspectors, this kind of tool could be super cool. If they could deploy this, have a little camera, and just watch it go around and check out things. And building inspectors and what have you wouldn't have to get all messy and dirty.
Right. No, there's certainly a lot of uses for this thing. And I mean, just autonomous robotic devices with cameras strapped to them, a lot of uses for that. So very, very cool. And you can definitely check that out there. Story number 3. Yeah. And, HoloLens is something that we've, kind of talked about here and there. And I think it's been about a year since you brought up in particular. It kind of comes up on the show every now and again, but it's always cool to see, like, Ralph, augmented reality and HoloLens in particular always seemed like a technology that was looking for a purpose. And so that's why it's cool to see it on story number 3.
Well, so story number 3, the headline is Microsoft lands $22 billion. I triple checked to make sure that number was right. Yeah. $22 billion contract to put custom HoloLens headsets on U.S. soldiers. And if you're able to see the photo, it's really kind of interesting looking. This comes from Gizmodo.com. And here's the story. Microsoft recently inked a contract with the military to deliver more than 120,000 augmented reality headsets over the next 10 years. Wow. And this, of course, but maybe some of the audience need a refresher. A reminder, augmented reality is a technology that superimposes a computer-generated image on a user's view of the real world. And the classic way to think of this is the game that was so popular a few years back, Pokemon Go, where you'd walk around with your mobile phone, your cell phone, right, and overlay images on reality of what the camera was actually seeing in front of you. So that's what this augmented reality bit is. So going on now, the new custom headsets are based on Microsoft's HoloLens 2 mixed reality headset, which will be linked to the company's cloud computing services. And the headsets will enable soldiers to see a map and a compass, as well as thermal imaging for night vision capabilities. And the headsets are also capable of helping soldiers aim a weapon. Ooh, let that sink in for a second. That's pretty interesting. Kind of scary, but fascinating and cool all at the same time, right? Microsoft believes the headsets will also help keep soldiers safer by enabling information and decision-making communications. So, interesting world here with these headsets for the military.
It's one of those things where anytime the military, kind of does anything, I mean, there's a lot of practical uses, because the military, they don't just shoot things. They, the military does so much work out in the field, all over the world, that, even if it's just for infrastructure patrolling, even if it's for, kind of nation building, which, came up so often. I mean, there's a lot of uses for, kind of augmented reality. Ralph, I actually found, not even digging down, but somewhere in the middle, this other article popped up where employees of Microsoft signed a petition to actually end this before it was even really announced.
Interesting.
This was published back in February 22nd, 2019, and here we are, of course, in 2021 talking about it. It took them a couple of years to actually ink out this deal, but
well, that's a good point.
Yeah, but it seems like the petition didn't really work, and I'm sure that kind of everyone addressed kind of issues with this. By the way, you talked about some of the uses here in this article. They were talking about thermal imaging, night vision, vitals monitoring, and unspecified artificial intelligence functions, which, like you said, could be everything from spotting people, things like that. I can see why people would be against this, Ralph, but at the same time, I mean, just because the technology is scary doesn't mean that people are going to stop developing it. And if it's not us...
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. I really don't know, but I also think that augmented reality has so many promises, and I'm sure that the military, obviously with a $22 billion deal over 10 years, they see that this would help so many different aspects of soldiers' lives.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, we're going to go into you've heard me talk many times over the years about my belief is, and you'll see how this links. My belief is that the future of us as human beings, well, if those of us who live in privileged societies with the kind of wealth and technology that the United States enjoys, we're on a path to having hybrid human beings with implants and prosthesis and all this sort of things, augmented humans, as I call it. And so these would be augmented soldiers. It's all kind of a path we're on, not only for the military, but for civilian, regular, medical world. It's all kind of going in this direction. Inchworming, granted, but definitely on that path, in my opinion.
Ralph, you tried to skip the line. You tried to jump the line with the dog leash and get a robotic hand, and didn't work out well for you. So
I want a Luke Skywalker hand.
Yeah, where you open up that flap and you start touching the actuators. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's so obviously the military is going to do something a little bit different than Pokemon Go, but but hey, this technology, we were talking about military applications for it. I think everyone out there needs to think about the military is going to have the first dibs because they have the money and the budget and that kind of thing. But think about. I think the first place people are going to see this, Ralph, are in cars. We were just talking about cars. Think about, augmented reality where directions are shown, on your windshield, and your speed is shown on your windshield, and blind spot detection is on your windshield. Like everything is going to be displayed very, very conveniently and overlaid on the real world. Like this is coming, but in what form, we still have to wait and see. So,
got it.
Yep. Okay. So that was story number 3, and potential side effects aside, we can go ahead and, part of that story was monitoring soldiers' vitals through their glasses. And part of that, I think, rolls into story number 4 as well, because technology is getting better at reading humans, and that's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is another really interesting one here in the category of health technology. So the headline is, researchers develop health tech tool that can detect vital signs from a person's face via video. So this is all part of trying to augment and strengthen telecommuting or televideo medical practice and so forth. So that's the category.
Just real quick. I'm sure, and obviously the show notes aren't published yet, but we may need to change the link that's on story number 4.
Bad
because,
link?
Story number 3 got linked to story number 4.
I got the wrong link in there. Sorry about that.
You're good. I'll go ahead and try to pull up the other one, but go ahead.
While you do that, we'll continue on. Sorry, guys. This comes from Gizmodo.com, and here's a story. A team of scientists from the University of Washington and Microsoft Research have developed new technology that allows medical providers to remotely check a patient's pulse and heart rate. Now, time out right away. One friend of mine said, well, a lot of people have that on their smartwatch. They can do their pulse and heart rate and so forth. So why do we need this? Well, not every patient's going to have that kind of technology at their disposal. So this is an idea to help people, maybe elderly who don't have the technology and so forth, to still be able to get these vital signs. So goes on to say the tool uses the camera on the remote patient's smartphone, if they have one, or computer to capture video of their face. So the thing that's intriguing to me was the whole idea of getting vital signs from your face. The video is then analyzed to measure changes in the light reflected by a patient's skin, which correlates to changes in blood volume and motion that are caused by blood circulation. That is such an out there idea of how do we get the vitals. Really weird. The research team used machine learning, 3 data sets of videos, and health statistics to train its system. One challenge the team faced was that the accuracy of the new technology varied with different skin colors. Lighter skin is more reflective, while darker skin absorbs more light. That seems reasonable. And the tool needs to perceive subtle changes in the reflections. To overcome this problem, the team increased the video capture of a patient's face to 18 seconds, which doesn't seem too bad. The longer video segment is then used to calibrate the machine learning program to accommodate for an individual's skin tone before it calculates pulse and heart rate. And to my way of thinking, this is a great example of the global research in progress to boost remote healthcare diagnostics. So again, it's kind of funny because if the patient has a cell phone or a webcam on their computer, why couldn't there be other ways to get these vital signs? And I grant you there are, but it's just an interesting additional way, especially with this idea that your face could indicate these vital signs, is fascinating to me.
I obviously, maybe because you're here on the show, Ralph, I think of Intel, and Intel, they have been working with kind of not Real ID or Face ID. It was like Face Sense or whatever that that technology was that used webcams to kind of sense people's faces and things like that.
Right.
It was very famous that Microsoft, which is why I thought about it as well, Microsoft was going to use people's faces to unlock their accounts just by smiling at the camera, things like that. Ralph, my immediate thought was being able to measure respiration rate, pulse, all that kind of thing. Telehealth, that's great, but what if you could passively do this at all times? What if you could monitor employees and say that this person's getting really stressed, they're getting really frustrated, maybe we need to shift some things around. Productivity, I guess, is where my head kind of goes.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Yeah, that's a good call.
And even on top of that, just monitoring by exception and seeing that there's a problem before there's actually a problem, very, very important. So I do like that, and the fact that they are, this one right here. Later, one challenge was different skin colors.
Right.
That's something that in a lot of cases that we hear about, Ralph, it just, that isn't really a consideration. So I'm glad that they definitely worked on that. As far as a particular, kind of story that I got, Ralph, I'll send you the link in the chat, but I only found it from the University of Washington itself. I was not able to find it from Gizmodo. You know what? So
I was doing the same thing you were doing on the side here, kind of poking around. So yeah, let's use that University of Washington link.
Yeah, and, sure. We'll throw that into the show notes later on. So there you go.
Sounds good, buddy.
But yeah, no, very, very cool. And of course, smartphone. Everyone has one, so everyone could have essentially a doctor on the go, which is also amazing. Story number 5, and man, Ralph, I don't know if you've been paying attention the last month or so, but space exploration, kind of missions and stuff like that. I mean, we just received a new message from, what was it? Voyager 1, which is currently like 15 billion miles away from Earth.
44 years in flight.
Yeah, it's, space has been really, as the kids would say, space has been popping off lately. There's a lot of exciting things happening in space. Story number 5.
Yeah. So headline is NASA's Perseverance rover recently split carbon dioxide, CO2, to make breathable air on Mars. A lot of implications there. Comes from sciencenews.com, and you can see the picture here of the device. Let's get into it right now. NASA's Mars Perseverance rover recently operated an experimental device that split carbon dioxide molecules into their component parts, creating about 10 minutes worth of breathable oxygen. Okay, it was also enough oxygen to make tiny amounts of rocket fuel. Ding, ding, ding. The instrument, about the size of a toaster, the experimental instrument, is called MOXIE, which stands for Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment.
Of course.
Of course, carbon dioxide is the primary component of the red planet's atmosphere, and this device breaks oxygen atoms off of carbon dioxide. Think of it as working like an electrical tree that breathes in CO2 and breathes out oxygen. I thought that was a great correlation that's in the article. On April the 20th, the instrument ran for long enough to produce 5 grams of oxygen. Now, that's not enough to breathe for very long, granted, but this I thought was really interesting. Because I just assumed their goal was someday for colonization of Mars to be able to generate their own breathable oxygen, right? Yeah. That makes, and I'm sure they would do this. I'm sure that would be part of it. But NASA's main reason, according to this article, to make oxygen on Mars isn't for breathing. It's for, in the future, and on a much larger scale, of course, making rocket fuel for the return journey of spacecraft to Earth. I just thought that was such an interesting twist.
Yeah, unfortunately there are, much like North Carolina the past couple of days, there are no gas stations on Mars. It's really, really, something that you have to tackle. Either you take it all with you when you go, which is very, kind of costly and really improbable. And then, of course, like you said, just make it there. And then, of course, store it there, and they can use it to refuel there. And hey, oxygen's a great fuel to have regardless. So this is, obviously prototype, but Ralph, they're thinking about how do we get people back from Mars, and that's I think that itself is really exciting, because that means that we're going to send people there one day. It's just how do we get things back from there? That is really, really cool. And of course, Ralph, since you were last on, the NASA's Ingenuity probe, of course, rover landed, and then the Ingenuity helicopter also made flight on Mars. That was cool.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh yeah, there's been so much excitement at Mars, and that's perfect because it goes right into story 6.
Right. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and jump right on over. We're making good time. We're not even halfway, and we're halfway through the show, so we're making good time. Story number 6.
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah. So headline is Mars might be hiding most of its old or ancient water underground, scientists say. The story comes from The Verge, and this is really interesting. Until recently, scientists believed that nearly all of the water on Mars escaped into space billions of years ago. I guess you could sort of kind of call it like an evaporative process, but I halt because I'm not quite sure that's quite accurate. However, a new report in the journal Science suggests that vast amounts of ancient Martian water may have been buried beneath its surface. The new findings from a team of scientists at the California Institute of Technology may help better explain the disappearance of the planet's water, which was abundant on the surface of Mars billions of years ago. That's such a thing to contemplate, isn't it? Using data from Mars probes, rovers, and meteorites, the team found that between 30 to 99% of the red planet's water could have vanished from the surface between 3.7 and 4.1 billion years ago. So that's the time frame.
30 to 99%. I'm no scientist, but that's a wide range.
Well, yeah, it's pretty far flung.
Right.
That's a fair point to raise. The new research, at least they were honest. They didn't, they kind of said, look, guys, could be a pretty wide
or all. Yeah, range. Exactly.
Yeah, well, yeah. These new research findings suggest that the water was locked away in the rocks of Mars through a geological process called crustal hydration. In fact, through crustal hydration, the researchers now believe as much water as roughly half of the volume of the Atlantic Ocean remains trapped underground on Mars, or trapped within the stones and so forth. So that's just pong. But it still blows my mind is just to think that even though it's billions of years ago, that Mars had all this water, sort of like another planet I think of.
Yes, as Venus, absolutely. But no, it's very, it's very good because obviously if you can produce oxygen there and the water's already there, so you just have to break up a couple of rocks to get to the tasty rock juice. I mean, hey, that means that there could be a viable settlement to be had there. Hopefully more than just Matt Damon,
Talk about groundwater. What if there's still, because this crustal hydration, I don't know how you would extract the water from the stones in that situation, but what if by some chance water was able to get down deeper in the surface of Mars, and you have underground lakes or who knows, there maybe nobody said this in the article, so I'm just sort of throwing out a wild speculation, but wouldn't that be something?
Well, and at the same time, though, I will say that there's already proof that there is flowing water on Mars. I mean, here are some pictures of it. These, kind of these striations here prove that, water is actually flowing on Mars. It may not be a lot. It may just be, the majority of it is ice. And then a couple of times a year, it actually thaws into running water. But, there is flowing water on Mars.
Pretty wild, huh? Those are great images. Those are cool.
And of course, these are just a little bit of water compared to obviously an ocean size amount of water. Just enough to disturb the dust and other things like that, Ralph. But it's hey, there is water on Mars, and of course you can take that to its next logical conclusion, where if there's water, hey, there's a pretty good chance there's little green men. I guess I don't know. But it's still exciting to think about. Absolutely.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a hoot.
Absolutely. And by the way, before we get to story number 7, I did just want to mention that one of our recent shows that we did that I promise I'm going to put up this weekend, one of the shows that we did recently was all about batteries and why, we keep hearing about different battery breakthroughs and that kind of thing, and how batteries even work in general. It's a very beginner-friendly kind of show for batteries. So yeah, just want to throw that out there. If anyone, we talk about this battery stuff and, anode, cathode, and how things are charged, and, you're just completely lost, I want to point everyone over to that special segment because, hey, it's, again, I learned a lot about how batteries work and why, Ralph, everything is still kind of lithium-ion batteries, and there's a good reason for it. But there is a new battery technology just waiting to be, really utilized, and hey, looks like, story number 7 goes even further than that. So
yes, this is definitely kind of in the out there category. Get a load of this headline: U.S. startup promises battery that could last up to 28,000 years. What?
And it's going to be nice and cheap. The picture here is of a diamond, ladies and gentlemen. So this is going to be a nice, cheap battery.
Yeah, right. Well, of course, you can manufacture diamonds, so that's probably the only way it's going to work. It comes from techtimes.com. So let's jump into this. California-based startup Nano Diamond Battery recently announced a battery made out of diamonds and nuclear waste. That's fascinating. That could last up to 28,000 years without charging. Wow. The company's new diamond battery technology is primarily intended for deep space probe applications like good old Voyager. The new battery technology now in development would derive its power from radioactive isotopes recycled from nuclear waste. Well, I like that idea of getting something good out of nuclear waste, specifically from radioactive graphite. To absorb the energy emitted by the isotopes, the battery will be enveloped with layers of panels embedded with nano diamonds. Since isotopes generally have half-lives that last thousands of years, and diamonds are excellent heat conductors, this I didn't know, the battery will keep emitting energy for thousands of years without the need for recharging. Whoa. Now, here's the fun part in the article. The team at Nano Diamond Battery is also developing a diamond battery that would last for 9 years for mobile phones and consumer electronics. What? How real this is, when this will come to market, TBD. But just kind of a fascinating. I couldn't resist it. Nuclear waste and manufactured diamonds equals batteries that could last that long. Wow, crazy.
Yeah, it's obviously the applications are going to be very different. I think, at least to begin with, they're going to be very different than what we're used to. But the fact that they can do it at all, it's Ralph. Do you recall? And you might have actually been on the show when we talked about it. There was there were people who were storing data in diamonds, and it because when you talk about data storage, things like tapes, back in the day when computers used tapes as storage, those things degrade. They degrade over 30, 40 years, and you have to kind of do that all over again. Hard drives have a failure rate of like 1.5% a year, so that means over the course of 10, 15, 20 years, almost all of your hard drives are going to fail at some point. The need for long-term storage led people to put things on diamonds. And Ralph, I'm very, very curious if what applications this could have for like thinking long term, which I don't think a lot of people need to store things for longer than the human society has been around. But hey, it could be for something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's amazing.
Who knows? And of course, nano diamonds. I'll have to add that to my vocabulary as well.
Yes, me too.
Story number 8. And actually, I should mention that special battery segment does not cover any of that. So don't go there hoping for more information on that. Story number.
I can't resist this before we go on. Nano diamonds sounds like a disappointing engagement ring.
No, hun. It's not dust. They're nano diamonds. The guy at Zales really sold it to me. It's just as good as diamonds on a much smaller scale. It's great.
Yeah, that's it. But they conduct heat really well.
There you go. So story number 7. Story number 8. Let's go ahead and talk about this.
Okay.
Hey, wearables for robots. Why not?
Yes. Well, here's a twist. Yeah, well, we've seen a lot of these kind of apparatus before, but this got my attention. The headline says, high-tech wearable robots that make you super strong and tireless may someday be available in retail outlets like Home Depot. What? Story in BBC News. And just that twist about the idea of this migrating ultimately maybe to a retail level is what caught my eye. So, of course, robotic exoskeletons are increasingly being used around the world in warehouses, factories, and for many other applications. And in simple terms, of course, I think everybody gets this. A robotic exoskeleton is an external device you wear, such as what's shown in the image for the article. If you have that available, you can see it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes also referred to as wearable robots. They can be battery powered and computer operated, incorporating motors and hydraulics. A full body robotic exoskeleton can give you super strong legs, back, and arms. Again, the augmented human. For example, I thought this was interesting. Delta Airlines is testing a full body robotic exoskeleton for freight handling and other physically demanding tasks. And they're doing that right now. One California-based robotic exoskeleton manufacturer, SuitX, that's SUITX, recently made news by predicting that robotic exoskeletons may go mainstream in the not too distant future. Now, they don't tag a number to that. Is it 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? What does this mean? But nonetheless, the idea that we could be headed that direction is what caught my eye. So it says, however, right now the cost of robotic exoskeletons currently available is a challenge because they cost around $45,000. So that's certainly not Home Depot retail. But the team at SuitX predicts they can drive down the cost of making their robotic exoskeletons to the point where they could be sold at outlets like Home Depot. And again, they didn't specify what price points they had in mind. And the SuitX team also predicts, this is really fun. I love this. Get this. And the SuitX team also predicts there could be a market for recreational exoskeleton robots as well. Maybe with that, I could keep up with my 2-year-old grandson. That's what I need.
or the dog, absolutely. Whenever it's
or the dog, yeah, right.
Whenever it goes for the squirrel. And by the way, when you're talking about when are people actually going to see stuff like this, I got to say it's already available. Maybe not Home Depot just yet, but Ralph, have you ever heard of like the chairless chair, for instance?
Yeah.
So things like that. They're like bionic pants, I guess, or things that you can kind of strap around your pants.
Yes.
Those are
good point.
Yeah, those are already available. You can buy them right now. Admittedly, maybe some that you find on Amazon like this are going to be, not quite exactly what I'm talking about. They're more just basic hydraulics, but yeah, being able to sit anywhere, or kind of lean down, like if you're a car mechanic and be able to, kind of lean down underneath the car, stuff like that. Absolutely, full-blown Iron Man style suits are probably sometime off, Ralph, but
yeah.
I would definitely agree with the author's point, saying that these things are going to go mainstream here soon. For any kind of handyman project or anything, like if you can get that price down to just a couple of $100s, that's a tool that I think a lot of people would really love. To be able to. Yeah.
And to your point, Ben, what if you could have one that's, say you're right-handed, which I am. What if you could have an arm, just an arm/shoulder kind of thing that would just give my right arm super strength, or maybe just the two arms and some
for lifting,
armature for my shoulders for lifting or so. I don't know. I mean, it could be, to your point, like the one that's just designed to help you sit up. You could have certain specific things, and maybe that's where this retail world would go with these variations of exoskeletons. Maybe not a full body exoskeleton, but
specific tasks.
Pick your body part.
Yeah, and there are, of course, this is a very pronoun, or I guess kind of robust market around prosthetics and helping the handicapped, things like that. But I think the next step from there, when it moves from medical research and medical technology, Ralph, what if instead of a bike, you buy yourself maybe walking boots or walking shoes or walking pants that take a lot of the strain of walking. And Ralph, of course the speed's going to be the same, but it allows you to walk 8 hours a day effortlessly. Stuff like that is definitely going to be pretty mainstream.
Yeah.
So
Fun
definitely
to think about.
Yeah, definitely on the horizon for sure.
Well, can you imagine if you had an upper body exoskeleton that would help you do rock climbing, cliff climbing kind of stuff?
No, I can't, because that sounds actually horrible. Rock climbing. I am so afraid of heights. I can't even imagine.
I get you. I'm with you on that, brother. I get it. But I mean, that would be a recreational application that could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, there's, and of course, recreational, maybe, hey, be able to, Ralph, what is it? Electric bikes have helped a lot of people enjoy biking when they can't actually bike or power it themselves for the most part. What if instead of electric bikes, like I said, electric pants, electric shoes that help you hike for long distances? Hey, it's very, very possible, and I'm looking forward to it. Story number 9. We can go ahead and talk about mushrooms here real quick. Ralph, I won't lie. The best mushroom story you have ever brought us was making mushrooms making houses out of mushrooms and bricks out of mushrooms.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a good one. But this one may be number 2.
Out there.
Yes, this one may be number 2.
Well, this is, we're going back to Mars again. This was just so kind of mind bending. And there's some things that I have some skepticism about, to say the least, but it's an intriguing idea. So the headline is, mushrooms growing on Mars, rock-like formations on surface may actually be fungi. And I know there's a great controversy about, is it fungi, which is the British, and fungi is American, and fungi you'll hear also. But most of the things I researched said stay away from fungi, go with either the British fungi or fungi for the American. Anyway, forget it. I'm going to go with fungi.
We're American fungi. Absolutely.
We'll just stick with fungi because it's like a fun guy. Okay. Science Times is a source here. There's a fun image here that you can check it out. So here we go. A new study entitled Fungi on Mars, Evidence of Growth and Behavior from Sequential Images. Now, this study was published this month in the journal Advances in Microbiology. And it contends that what NASA has identified initially as rocks are perhaps fungus-like life forms growing on the Martian surface. The study, created by an international team including scientists from China and the United States, claimed that the odd puffball-like rocks found on Mars are actually mushrooms. I would soften it and say might be, but they say actually mushrooms. After analyzing images captured by the Curiosity rover and the orbiting craft HiRISE, the team claimed that the mushroom-like puffballs appeared to shrink, reappear, and disappear over a number of days, weeks, and even months. In one instance, the report says, the team said there is evidence of the fungi resprouting in tracks that the NASA Curiosity rover left behind. It does make you stop and think, okay, what is going on here? This is not the first time, however, such a claim has been made. Another study released 2 years ago also suggested the possibility of mushroom-like life forms growing on the surface of Mars. Now, I have to do a big timeout here for a second. Being in the Northwest, we're very familiar with mushrooms, although with climate change, and we're going through a terrible drought right now, so maybe our mushroom world is going to go away. But I can tell you, mushrooms need a lot of humidity and moisture, ground surface moisture. So we talked about Mars's water being trapped, most of it being trapped in rocks, perhaps, is one prevalent or new theory. Where would you get the kind of moisture that would be necessary to grow something that we would recognize as a mushroom? I could see that there might be some kind of life form that's causing these things going on Mars. As to whether they're mushrooms the way we would understand mushrooms, which require, again, so much moisture, that's the part I'm kind of going, But it definitely is very curious and odd about these things appearing, shrinking, reappearing, disappearing, coming back, whatever. What are these things? It is fun to speculate.
And I think this one right here, the study authors claim there's a lot of claiming going on in this sentence right here that they even have evidence of mushrooms growing on top of Curiosity itself, the rover itself.
Right.
They can claim a lot, Ralph. I mean, they're saying that the ice is actually see-through, and that the kind of the black in the pictures is not kind of running water, but rather that is entire fungus colonies. Which, for anyone out there who wants to go visit Mars, now consider this: it may be covered in mold. It may be like a giant piece of cheese in your fridge. Disgusting, but. Still, I guess they can claim anything they want. Whether or not it's true, Ralph, I'm like you. I'm very skeptical on this one.
Yeah, it's again,
but
being
it's
up
fun
here
to
in
think
the
about.
Northwest.
Yeah,
I have a hard time buying it. But you do have to ask, regardless, what are these things? What are these puffball things? Anyway,
yeah.
We'll move on now.
Absolutely. We have time for, I think, story number 10, which we did not talk about on the show, and then we're going to have time for one more, I think, if we kind of do this well. So story number 10.
It'll be your pick.
Sure.
But story 10 I love, because if you think about farming and technology being antithetical, no. Because farming, of course, is going high tech like all the rest of our world. So I love this story from Popular Mechanics headline. Actually, the headline was a little different. I didn't like the word slay, so I changed it to robot uses lasers to eradicate 100,000 weeds per hour. Again, from Popular Mechanics. And there's a fun video, too, by the way, which you can share. So here we go. Attention farmers. There's a new autonomous tractor robot from a company called Carbon Robotics that can destroy 100,000 weeds per hour, day or night. It looks like a big rectangular metal box on 4 wheels. And here's how it works. The chassis of the tractor uses GPS and computer vision to autonomously drive within the bounds of a field, navigate furrows, and automatically turn around to start on the next row. While the tractor moves at about 5 miles per hour, its 12 high-resolution cameras continuously scan the ground below. Meanwhile, an onboard computer uses artificial intelligence-based machine learning, of course, to identify weeds in mere milliseconds. Once the robot pinpoints weeds, it fires its 8 carbon dioxide lasers at them. Wow. Okay. The robot's carbon dioxide lasers, by the way, run electricity through a gas-filled tube with reflective mirrors on the ends of the tube, which deliver a form of ultra-powerful, invisible, far infrared light. In fact, this light is so powerful, it could cut through various materials from wood to steel. Whoa. A single carbon robotics robot can weed 15 to 20 acres in a day. Now, reality check. The price for this new robot has not been officially disclosed yet by the company, but it's expected to be. Oh, did they? Because they said it was expected to be about $200,000 or more in the article I was looking at. It was kind of a speculative thing. Unless you've got something from their website, that'd be great. But
actually,
again, I think
right,
the price point is going to be such that it would probably be appealing to large corporate mega farms. But if you found the price, that'd be great.
I actually did not. I was actually going by that $98,000 one, but I don't think that is.
Yeah. They're speculating this thing's going to be pretty spendy, and again, would appeal to large corporate mega farms.
Well, and although at the same time, and that's one of the things I like about this is that the technology is not really new. I think that a lot of manufacturing places actually use laser etching and laser cutting.
Sure, of course.
Today, and all they're doing is essentially strapping multiple instances of those laser etching / cutting tools, and using AI, and hopefully it's good, to kind of zap the weed and not the plant that it's trying to farm.
Exactly. No, you're right. You're right, Ben. It's a clever combination of, it's like a cooking recipe where it's not, salt isn't new and flour isn't new, but maybe you come up with a different combination of things that you already have at hand. It's a clever way of combining technologies that are already in hand, with the exception of maybe developing the AI machine-based learning software that has been trained to identify weeds from the good plants. So that part's kind of neat.
Yeah, and you can kind of see it here where, that video right there where, all the red spots are, I assume, kill, and all the blue spots are, let live over here.
Yes.
It's, that whole thing. Very, very cool. And obviously, the more, Ralph, I honestly feel like the more they can automate farming in particular, because it's not a very fun job. It's a very labor intensive job. And we kind of need it to, eat and do things like that. The more we can automate with that, the better in my mind. Just
and
more
Ben,
food productivity.
And Ben, don't forget this solution: no pesticides.
Absolutely. That's
there you go.
There's a lot of people that are really into that. I will say,
or herbicides,
personally, though,
I should say.
Right, and this is a whole personal grievance. Organic, what a crock. And people can argue that one all day long. I just personally, every time I buy organic, it molds faster, it goes bad faster, it tastes less tasty. I don't know. That's a whole thing. Okay, Ralph. With that being said, story number 10, 11 was pretty cool, and 12 was an update to a story that we had covered in the past. But I think story number 13 in particular looked fun to me. So let's talk about story number 13.
So here's the headline. Scientists read minds to understand how the human brain controls tool use. This really was kind of cool. From scitechdaily.com. And again, if you're lucky enough to have the illustration, you can see that it makes it easier to understand. But here we go. Researchers at the University of East Anglia in England have made an astonishing discovery about how our brains control our hands. They used MRI data to study which parts of the brain are used when we handle tools such as a knife. They read out the signal from certain brain regions and try to distinguish when participants handle tools appropriately for use. Humans have used tools, of course, for millions of years, but this research is the first to show that actions such as grasping a knife by its handle for cutting are represented by brain areas that are also represent images of human hands. Our primary tool for interacting with the world. So it's that linkage that's kind of cool. The lead researcher on the team noted, quote, until now, it was assumed that the brain segregates visual information to optimize processing of actions associated with tools. but how the human brain controls our hands to correctly grasp 3D objects such as tools was not well understood. The research could pave the way for the development of next generation neuroprosthetics, that is, prosthetic limbs that tap into the brain's control center and help rehabilitate people who have lost function in their limbs due to brain injury. So this is kind of a deep and complex sort of thing, and I've just given you a gloss over summary,
Right.
but a very, very interesting innovation.
And I guess that feeling that people get when, whenever they have a favorite tool, or, they chop vegetables, or, they have a knife or something like that, and they feel like it's an extension of my arm. It's like,
yes, exactly.
That, and it, to your brain, it is an extension of your arm. So very, very cool there. Ralph, we have time for just, if we go very quick, we have like about a minute and a half left. Story number 12, we could just highlight the key points with this robotic snake.
Yeah, so this has been a further development. Carnegie Mellon University's snake robot can now swim underwater. The source here is robotreport.com, really fun. So the Carnegie Mellon University's acclaimed snake-like robot can now slither its way underwater, allowing the modular robot to inspect ships, submarines, and underwater infrastructure. And so they tested it in the university's swimming pool, which is kind of fun. And the video, which you're showing, is great. This was done, however, under the auspices of the Advanced Robotics for Manufacturing Institute for the Department of Defense. So a lot of interesting possibilities there.
Absolutely. And of course, the music means that we're about done, Ralph. But yeah, you had a great lineup of stories. Always love hearing about these. And yeah, there's a couple that we did not get to. Everyone, you can check out the show notes. We'll include them there as well if you'd like to do some further reading, listening, and of course, we'll have sources for everything that we did talk about. So Ralph, again, I'm happy that your finger rodectomy went perfectly. Great. You can actually clap now. This is perfect. And Ralph, we look forward to your segment next month as well.
Hey, always a blast.
All right, everyone, we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.